Eric Darling here with Darling Data. Recently made amends with the nice folks at Beer Gut Magazine. They offered me a bit of an olive branch, a peace offering. They named Darling Data the sexiest SQL Server consulting firm in all of America, Europe, Asia, Africa. I think I missed one. Definitely Australia. Certainly New Zealand. So, feeling pretty good about that. Feeling nice about myself. Got my glow up. Is that the right thing to call that? Anyway, I have some additional improvements, updates to two of my favorite store procedures in the entire world, SP underscore Quickie Store and SP underscore Pressure Detector. Let's start with Quickie Store because it's what the script is telling me to do. So the thing that I added here was actually a user request. Don't get too many of those, just because I write such good scripts. But what they wanted to do was to be able to get queries either only from store procedures or only not from store procedures. And I guess I should take that back a little bit. Only from modules or only not from modules. See, in Query Store, there's this object ID column in one of the DMVs, and if the object ID is 0, then it is an ad hoc query, or it is dynamic SQL, or it came from an application or something. It did not come from a module inside of SQL Server. If it came from a procedure or a trigger or a function or something like that, then the object ID will not be 0. It'll be greater than 0. So I'm not really taking any steps right now to differentiate between the different types of modules. It seems like it would just be kind of annoying to do. Honestly, that's it. It sounds annoying to do. I don't want to do it. So, but you can use Quickie Store to look for either ad hoc pieces of code like this, where everything will say ad hoc, or you can look for modules. Now, I'm gonna let you in on something. I don't currently have any store procedure stuff from any like demo workloads in my Query Store, so that came back empty. But I'm gonna let you in on something here. The only thing that this checks is if the query type starts with A, mostly because some people are going to put a space in ad hoc. Some people aren't. You can do either one. It doesn't matter here. But people are going to type something like procedure or function or whatever in here, and I'm only really checking if this starts with A at the moment. I'm not taking any heroic steps to get you more information there. For that, I do apologize, but mostly people just want stuff that came from something or that came from nothing. That's generally how it works. And of course, the ever helpful help parameter will get you information on all sorts of things like new additions to parameters. Cool. Hope you like that one. We also have updates to SP underscore Pressure Detector. Now this one got a little bit more attention this time around, mostly because the more stuff I add to it, the more stuff I realize I don't always want to see. There is some stuff that is opportune to see if you're just trying to get like a complete picture, but when you're really trying to drill into certain things, you don't always want like sort of semi-unrelated results back. So one thing that I added was the ability to skip getting query results. And by that I mean getting a list of running queries. I've talked about in previous videos about SP Pressure Detector how you can find queries that are contributing to CPU and memory pressure currently on your server, which can be very useful if you're continuously troubleshooting stuff. I should probably add a query only parameter, but I just use SP who is active for that. So I don't know. Maybe I won't. So we can skip queries. We can also decide if we want to skip waits. Maybe we don't want to see wait stats every single time. It's a interesting thing to have there. Some other stuff that got added to the result sets. A couple tweaks that I made here is I'm going back to one of the resource governor DMBs that tallies all the CPU time that workload groups have used. And I'm getting now the hours of CPU time. And I'm getting that because sometimes when you look at the hours of uptime and you look at the hours of waits, the waits can look really low compared to how many hours your server has been up. And that's like if a server is just like busy during the workday, like 9 to 5, and then does nothing from 5 p.m. to 9 a.m. Like there's not really a whole lot of overnight activity on there. Then the waits aren't going to be accumulating so much then. And I wanted to add CPU time to the results to kind of give a better picture of, like, okay, the server's been up for this long, and that time, queries have used this many hours of CPU, right? And since we have that, we can kind of figure out, like, sort of generally how the wait stats compare to, like, how long queries, like how much CPU has been used, like how long queries have been running, stuff like that. So, I mean, I know it's not perfect because, parallelism and other stuff, but it just kind of gives you a sort of like different data point, like a different angle on, like, okay, like, maybe, hitting, X amount of hours of some wait and, like some much larger number of hours of uptime doesn't look that bad, but like compared to, how much time you've spent like actually running queries, how high is that wait? So some servers are like off the rails and like have like 80 times like parallelism waits compared to uptime, like 100 hours of uptime and like 8,000 hours of parallelism waits. And you're like, oh well, we have some things to talk about, but I wanted to add this for the servers where that distinction isn't as apparent. Another thing that I did was I realized after a lot of time of using this that having 9 decimal places in some of these results was not terribly useful. So all of the not terribly useful 9 decimal place results have been truncated to 2 decimal places. This used to be a whole mess of stuff going across here. I shortened that down to 2. I've also done that for the memory stuff because, having 9 decimal places of a memory grant isn't saving anyone's day. The places where I didn't change that are in any weights that are related to time. So if you get query wait stats, or sorry, if you get like when you run a query, we run the store procedure to get queries that are currently active, like how long the queries have been running, how long the queries have been waiting on like a particular wait, that isn't truncated at all. Like I want you to know exactly as exact as possible how long those things have been happening, so you have a better picture of just how fast or slow a query is. All right, cool. Some other stuff that I did specifically for the memory section, just to sort of keep with the basic theme of the script, I moved the section of queries that are asking for memory down to the very bottom, so it matches what the CPU pressure section looks like. So you get all of the sort of above board information up here. How memory is currently being used. If you've had any low memory stuff, what the current semaphore query memory grant information stuff is, and then finally the queries that are asking for memory grants. I also added to this section. This section is a real, it's a potpourri of different data points. And I really like it because it gives me a better idea of like what's asking for stuff where. So like having the total database size compared to the total total physical memory in the box, knowing what max server memory is set to compared to the total memory in the box, knowing if lock pages in memory is turned on. All this stuff in here is all sort of very useful when we start looking at weights correlating, like if there's pressure on the server, like what can we do, like how, like where is it coming from, right? So one thing that a column that I added to this result set is the total number of reduced memory grants that have occurred on the server. This should generally be since startup unless someone alters their workload groups and clears that. I don't think that's a very common thing, but that can happen. I haven't really thought of a good way to alert people if that's been done or not, just because I think it's going to be such a rare event that I just don't think I want to deal with it. So this is good here because like all this information going to like there is sort of what's going on currently, and I think it's very useful to have this data point, knowing how many times a query has been forced to run with a reduced memory grant because it sat there waiting to get memory, like the amount of memory that it wanted and couldn't. So I think that's a pretty good thing to have, and that's a pretty good data point to have. And there is like historically, how much has memory pressure sucked on this server. Some stuff that I added to specifically the CPU section. One thing I did to make two reasons that I did this. One is so that it better matches other places where there are XML clickable columns. I separated this back out. This used to be down in this result set, but I moved it out to its own result set. And another thing, it matches the rest of the store procedure a little bit better, where like if you run this to get everything, let me just give you an example of why. So if we run this to get everything, like the tempdb info is a separate thing and the low memory clickable is a separate thing. So now the CPU details are separate things. So the other reason that I did that is because I added some new columns to this section. I added total active request count, so how many requests are currently active. This column is in the DMB. It's not documented terribly well what it does, but it looked interesting to me, so I added it. We'll see if it survives the test of time or not. The total blocked task count. So if any queries are blocked, we can get a count of those to kind of figure out compared to how many things are how many requests are there, how many are blocked. Right? It could be very interesting to see that on servers where you're troubleshooting a blocking issue. And I also grabbed the total active parallel thread count. I think this will make thread pool demos even more interesting. So those are all available over here. It's a total active request through total active parallel thread count. These 4 columns are brand new. I also added, I changed a little bit I didn't change the way I get thread pool weights. I used to just select from the DMB if there were thread pool weights, and if there were none, then you got like a blank result set. So now I've changed it so that if there are no current thread pool weights, it tells you there are no current thread pool weights, and if there are thread pool weights, then you will see information on the thread pool weights. It'll be a list of queries with their null session IDs, how long they've been waiting, and the thread pool weight. So that's a little bit more specific there. As usual, for all of these things, SP Pressure Detector has a very helpful help section. If you have questions, comments, or concerns about the store procedure, you should always use the @help parameter. And if you run into issues with any of these store procedures, please, please, use GitHub to ask questions, report bugs, request features, all that stuff. My GitHub repo is listed pretty much everywhere in the world, including, usually where you have to go get these things from. It's not like you can download them from my website. Go to GitHub, get the most recent version, and then have a lot of fun. Yeah, that's it. All right, cool. Well, those are the new updates, changes, additions, no subtractions to SP Quickie Store and SP Pressure Detector. I hope you like these store procedures. I hope that you find these store procedures to be of some utility to you. As I spend a lot of time working on them, and You know, if I could only use them for me, well, I don't know. Maybe the world would be a less safe place for SQL Server. I don't know. Anyway, thank you for watching. And if you enjoyed this video, or you enjoy my other videos but not this video, or some mix and match there, remember to like and subscribe. You know, it's the thumbs up and the bell thing, so that you can be alerted to all of my miraculous, wonderful, now officially awarded sexiest SQL Server content on the planet. And I'm going to record some more stuff after this because it's Saturday and I finally don't have anything else to do. So, all right. See you soon.